last time was our only review this month of a cheap cartoon based off of a classic 1980s movie? Dudes, this well ain't even close to getting dry! You may recall some years ago I reviewed the MTV TV series Teen Wolf, which was loosely based off of the Michael J. Fox movie from 35 years ago. And by loosely based, I mean it was about a guy named Scott who was a werewolf, and that's about it. The series went all teen angsty because that had to be the trend at the time, and thank goodness that trend died out, and we've never seen it done again, ever. Man, if only someone had made a TV series that at least tried to be more accurate to the source, right? Yeah, you know exactly what I'm getting into. The Teen Wolf animated series! Developed under the creative direction of Chris Cuddington, written by numerous veterans of the 80s like Robey Gordon and Michael Reeves, and featuring a voice cast with familiar names like Don Most and June Foray, the Teen Wolf cartoon was another segment from that crazy 1986 CBS Saturday morning lineup that included the likes of Wildfire, Galaxy High School, and Pee-wee's Playhouse. So does this series deserve howls of pleasure or silver bullets? Time to find out. So the show is, of course, about teenage werewolf Scott Howard, who here is sadly not voiced by Michael J. Fox or even Michael Landon, but is played by Michelangelo. Seriously, that's Townsend Coleman voicing the character.
You really shouldn't be chasing Mrs. Seslick's cat. She thinks her family's weird enough as it is.
And that's not the only change, as in this series, Scott and his fellow werewolf father live in the town of Wolverton. Ha ha ha! In what I guess is their old family home, where also reside Scott's grandparents, who, yes, are werewolves as well. Now, I suppose it could be claimed that Scott and his dad moved out of their old home in order to get away from all the craziness that happened in the original movie. The problem is that there are still a number of elements that make it near impossible to link the two together. The first is that Scott now has a kid sister named Lupe, despite the fact that we still don't hear anything about Scott's mother at all, so where she came from we are given no clue. The second is that pretty much all the other major characters from the movie are here in Wolverton as well. This includes Scott's friends, Styles and Boof, who here know of his secret, but also the stuck-up bully characters Mick and Pamela, who don't know about Teen Wolf even though they did find out in the movie. Oh, and Mick now goes to the same school as Scott because whatever. For what it's worth, the basis of Scott's abilities are pretty much the same as in the movie. He turns into a wolf man whenever there's a full moon out, but also whenever he gets agitated or otherwise very emotional. And yes, we always get this drawn-out Sailor Moon-style transformation scene whenever he wolfs out. Hey, whatever saves on the animation budget, am I right? And he's constantly trying to keep this in check or otherwise going into hiding whenever he can't, while constantly running into problems that seem to only be solvable by him becoming the wolf.
No one's gonna see these photos. Everyone would find out my family secret. Then I'd never get a date.
Right, that's your biggest concern, and not that your entire family would end up in a research lab somewhere. Or worse, with Ringling Brothers. However, even with all that, Scott really isn't that interesting of a character in this series. Like a number of other shows I've reviewed, this is one where whatever interest it generates is in the supporting characters. First off is Lupe, whose whole shtick is that she wants to be a werewolf. I don't think it's ever actually stated that she never will become one, the whole sometimes it skips a generation plot point, just that she hasn't reached the age where they will know yet.
Loopy, you're too old to be teething.
I know, but I think one of my canines is coming in.
Don't wolf your food down, young lady.
Oh!
bad choice of words, Dad.
The other supporting character who mostly drives the plots is Styles, who isn't nearly as annoying as his movie counterpart. He's far more annoying. He's always looking to make money off of Scott and his family's secret, which, yes, the character was trying to do in the movie, but only after the rest of the town found out about Scott. This version is constantly trying to find ways to get Scott exposed so he can make a fortune off of him. The very first episode is about him wanting to sell off Scott's family photo album to the press for $100. Even in the 80s, that's aiming low, dude.
Listen, good buddy. There might be a real future for you in the demolition business. I could make some calls.
Styles, if you weren't my best friend, I'd bite you.
But probably the most entertaining character is Scott's grandfather, who is pretty much like the Shaggy dog if he reached I don't give a crap age.
Think you could take a rest, huh? We're free! We're free!
Grandpa, do you know what you have done?
Yes, I freed my friends.
But they were all going to be adopted at the bazaar tomorrow, Grandpa.
Oops.
Oh yeah, and there's also this nosy neighbor character in Mrs. Seslick. Because of course this series needed its own Gladys Kravitz. That's pretty much where the conflict within Scott lies. He's essentially the only one in his own life who hates his hairy secret, surrounded by friends and family members who choose to embrace it, even if in the former's case it's so they can exploit it. I'll admit the episodes could have some interesting concepts. Yeah, there was one when Grandpa got thrown in the dog pound. But there were times when it looked like they just didn't go all the way. For example, there was the episode The Curse of the Red Paw, where the family inherits another ancestral home in Transylvania, and all the people in town want to drive the Howards away, until they find out that everyone in Transylvania is a werewolf, and everyone now gets along with one another. And yet the family signs the home over to the town and goes back to Wolverton. Why? You have the chance to live in peace with your own kind, and instead choose to go back to where you have to stay in hiding? Sometimes status quo is God really is a pain in the ass. Another one was Under My Spell, when a family of witches comes to Wolverton and turns the whole town into their zombie minions. Only Scott's family is immune to their powers because they're supernatural beings as well. And there's this whole bit in the end when the Grand Chief Warlock tells them how they're all just as powerful, but choose to use their powers for good and all that shtick. This is never followed up on in the series. Well, I say that, but it turns out I didn't actually catch the entire show. All I ever saw was the first 13-episode season, only to discover now that there was a second season of 8 extra episodes I never saw. Granted, that season aired in 1987, the year I was temporarily swayed over to NBC because of, well, you know. But yeah, at 21 episodes, this was actually one of the more successful cheap adaptation shows. Who knew? This is another show that isn't great, but I can't really go that hard on it. The episode stories can be pretty goofy and ridiculous, but hey, the original was goofy and ridiculous. At least here, the creators took the basis of the original setup and tried to do something similar but still unique with it. Unlike the MTV version that had to change everything for angst. Unlike the last show we reviewed, this one seems to have its episodes more freely distributed online. Mainly by British distributors, because I guess this show actually has a following on the other side of the pond. But yeah, it's another one where I can freely say you're welcome to check it out yourself and develop your own opinion. I'm just grateful I have yet to run into a ton of Teen Wolf meets Buffy fanfic. Though that still would be a better love story than Twilight. See you next time on TV Trash.